Welcome back to the deep dive. Ever wondered how we really figure things out about people, about society?
Yeah, how that knowledge actually gets created.
Exactly. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on two big ways social scientists do research: qualitative and quantitative methods.
Right.
Our goal: help you quickly get the core differences and, crucially, know when you'd use one over the other.
And it's not just academic jargon, Understanding this stuff shapes how we see studies, how we make decisions, even how we think about reality itself.
Okay.
Because these two approaches, they start from really different places, different assumptions about what knowledge is and what reality is.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Let's clearly lay out these two approaches using our source material. We want you to walk away knowing, okay, this question needs this method, and here's why.
Sounds good.
All right, let's get into those core philosophical differences first, because like you said, everything else kind of flows from there. Big picture. Qualitative is often seen as more subjective, rooted in context, perception, individual experience.
Yeah, understanding the depth.
While quantitative aims for objective facts, measurable stuff you can generalize. So, subjective versus objective. How does that really play out?
Well, it plays out big time in epistemology. That's a fancy word for what we even count as real knowledge.
Okay.
So, qualitative research often uses what's called interpretivism. Knowledge isn't just out there waiting to be found objectively. It's created through how we interpret things, our interactions.
So, my understanding is part of the knowledge.
Exactly. It values unique perspectives. It respects that people experience the world differently. Now, quantitative often leans on positivism.
Right. That sounds more science-y.
It is. It's the idea you can take methods from, say, physics or biology and apply them directly to social stuff, aiming for universal laws about human behavior.
But can you really boil down human actions to universal laws? That seems tricky.
It is tricky. Positivism tries, often by controlling variables very carefully, which, in the messy social world, that's tough.
Okay, so that covers knowledge. What about ontology? The nature of reality itself? What does reality even look like to these two?
Good question. For qualitative, it's often a constructionist view. Reality isn't some fixed thing outside of us.
It's built.
Kind of. It's more like a mental map, constantly shifting based on our experiences or social interactions. Think about different people describing the same event. Right. They all have slightly different takes, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Constructionism explores those multiple realities. It's not about finding the one truth, but understanding your truth, their truth.
Interesting. And quantitative?
That's usually an objectivist view. Social reality is treated more like a rock. It's out there, objective, a single fact, existing whether we see it or not.
Okay.
The goal is to measure that single external reality.
Wow. So completely different starting points on what's real and how we know it. It makes sense then that how they actually do the research would be poles apart.
Absolutely. And that links directly to how theory fits in. In qualitative work, the process is often nonlinear. It's iterative. You explore. It's bottom up.
Meaning
the researcher often generates new ideas, new hypotheses, maybe even new theories from the data. You dive into interviews, observations, find patterns.
So the theory emerges during the research.
Precisely. It's theory generating. Data leads to codes, then categories, concepts, maybe a hypothesis, and boom, a new theory.
Okay, and quantitative?
That's usually linear, top down. It's more confirmatory.
So you start with the theory.
You start with an existing theory, or at least a specific hypothesis derived from one. Then you collect data specifically to test that hypothesis.
Right. Theory, hypothesis, data, findings.
Exactly. Did the findings support it? Reject it? Maybe you need to tweak the theory based on the results.
Okay, that's a massive difference in the workflow. So let's get to the crunch. What are these approaches actually for? Why pick one?
The core purpose, yeah. If you want to deeply understand social interactions, explore something new, discover underlying meanings, build rich descriptions.
Like the why behind something.
Exactly. The why and the how. If your goal is exploring, discovering, constructing, understanding that's qualitative, think understanding why people in a community feel a certain way about a new policy.
Got it. And quantitative.
That's for when you want to test specific ideas, look for cause and effect, make predictions.
More about the what or how much.
Yeah, describing patterns, explaining variations, predicting outcomes for a larger group. Objectives like describe, explain, predict. Like, does this policy actually lead to a measurable change in satisfaction across the whole city?
Okay, crystal clear. So purpose drives the choice. Let's get practical then. How do these differences show up in the nuts and bolts, the study design?
Well, right from the start, the research questions look different.
How so?
Qualitative questions ask about processes, issues, phenomena to be explored. They're often open-ended, like, what's it like for students moving to online learning? Or how do new teams build trust?
Exploring the experience.
Quantitative questions usually ask about the relationship between specific things, variables, like, does more student engagement predict better grades in online courses? Or is there a statistical link between team size and how fast they finish projects? Testing a specific connection.
And the people involved, the groups you study.
Totally different scale and selection. Qualitative often uses smaller groups, and they're usually not picked randomly. We call them participants.
Why not random? Isn't that less?
It is less generalizable statistically, but that's not the point. You choose specific people because they have the experiences or insights you need for that deep understanding. You want rich stories, not just average numbers.
Okay, so depth over breadth.
You could say that. Quantitative goes for breadth. Larger groups often randomly selected a sample. This is crucial for generalizing findings to a wider population.
And the focus is different too. You mentioned lenses.
Yeah, think of qualitatives as a wide-angle lens. You're looking at the whole picture, the context, the depth and breadth within that specific situation. Quantitative is more like a narrow angle, a lean lens, focusing tightly on specific variables, testing specific hypotheses, often trying to filter out or control other factors.
So with different focuses and groups, the data they collect must be completely unalike.
Oh, absolutely. Night and day.
Yeah.
Qualitative data is words, stories, observations.
Like interview transcripts, notes.
Exactly. Open-ended responses, interview transcripts, detailed field notes from watching people, journals, documents, even photos, audio, video. It's rich, descriptive stuff, capturing experience.
And quantitative data.
Numbers, statistics. Things you can count or measure precisely, usually collected with structured tools like surveys with multiple choice answers or controlled experiments where you measure specific outcomes.
Structured, validated instruments, you mean?
Yes, tools designed to measure consistently and accurately.
So if the data is words versus numbers, analyzing it must be a whole different game.
Completely. Qualitative analysis means digging into that text or those images, looking for patterns, identifying key features, recurring themes.
How do you even manage all that text?
Often with special software, actually. Tools like ATLS.TI or NVivo help researchers organize, code, and find connections in huge amounts of qualitative data. It's about interpretation, finding meaning in the themes.
Okay. And quantitative analysis.
That's all about the stats.
Yeah.
Identifying statistical relationships between those variables you measured.
Using
standard statistical software. Maybe Excel for basics, but more likely SPSS, which is common in social sciences, or R, which is a very powerful tool, especially for complex modeling. It's about finding significant correlations, comparing averages, testing if differences are likely real or just chance.
That really lays out the differences. Can you give some examples of specific methodologies used under each umbrella, just to make it even more concrete?
Sure. For qualitative, common ones are case studies really deep dives into one specific instance, like one school or one event.
Like spending months understanding just one community project.
Exactly. Then there's action research, which is about solving a specific problem in a particular setting. Ethnography, that's where researchers immerse themselves in a culture or group.
Like living with a group to understand them from the inside.
Grounded theory aims to build theory directly from the data, bottom up. And phenomenology explores the shared essence of a particular lived experience, like what is the essence of grief?
Okay, those sound very exploratory. And quantitative methods.
More structured approaches. Surveys are huge, collecting numerical data from lots of people. Experimental studies, the classic science model, manipulating one thing to see its effect on another, under controlled conditions.
Like a drug trial, but for social interventions.
Sort of, yeah. Then longitudinal studies, tracking the same people over time. And cross-sectional studies, looking at different groups at one single point in time to compare them.
It feels like the researcher themselves must play a very different role in each approach.
Definitely. It's not just what they study, but how they relate to it.
How so? Is one more involved?
It's maybe less about more and more about the type of involvement. In qualitative research, the researcher is often right in there, part of the knowledge creation process. Yes, their perspective matters. And often the participants know the researcher's views, and vice versa. You're studying behavior in its natural setting, using open-ended ways to understand the world as the participants see it.
Okay. And quantitative.
Typically, the researcher tries to maintain more distance, studying respondents from afar,
More objective distance.
That's the aim. Designing the study to control factors, isolate cause and effect, using structured, often closed-ended tools. Think about double-blind studies trying to remove bias by keeping people in the dark about key aspects.
Right, so the researcher tries to be separate from what's being studied.
Ideally, yes.
How does all this, the philosophy, the methods, the researcher's role, shape how they fundamentally view human behavior, and what kind of results come out at the end?
Qualitative sees behavior as really dynamic. It depends on the situation, the social context, personal feelings.
Yeah.
It's complex.
Messy, even.
You can say that. It leads to accepting multiple realities. Findings are often seen as value-bound, tied to a specific time and place. Simple cause and effect. Often seen as not the main point, maybe even misleading given the complexity.
Okay, and the quantitative view?
Tends to see human behavior as more regular, predictable, looking for patterns, maybe even universal laws.
More like physics.
In aspiration, sometimes. It assumes a single objective reality is measurable. The ideal is value-free research, producing findings that are time and context-free, and investigating cause and effect is often central.
So it follows that the final reports, the outcomes, would look totally different, and how we judge if it's good research.
Completely. Qualitative results are often specific, detailed findings about a particular group or a situation. Less about generalizing to everyone, more about deep understanding. The report is usually a narrative.
Stories and quotes.
Lots of rich description, direct quotes from participants, letting their voices come through, and quality. Judged by things like dependability, is the process consistent? And transferability or trustworthiness, can these insights apply to similar situations?
Okay. And quantitative results.
Designed for generalization. Findings that can apply to other similar populations. The report is statistical.
Charts and numbers.
Correlations, comparisons of averages, tests of statistical significance, and quality is judged by the classic terms. Reliability, does the measurement give consistent results? And validity, does it actually measure what it claims to measure?
Okay, so if someone listening is thinking about a research question, what are the big practical advantages of qualitative? Why choose it?
Its power is in-depth and discovery. You get incredibly detailed, in-depth understanding of something.
Through nuance.
Exactly. It welcomes subjective information. People's perspectives are the data. It's not stuck with only things you can easily count or define rigidly, so you can tackle really complex, fuzzy questions.
Things you couldn't just measure with a survey.
Right. And it's fantastic for exploring totally new areas where you don't even know what the important variables might be yet. It helps build new theories from scratch.
That sounds really valuable for uncharted territory. But like you said, every approach has limits. What are the potential weaknesses or trade-offs with qualitative?
Well, the flip side of depth is often breadth. You usually study fewer people, so generalizing findings statistically to a whole population is harder or not the goal.
Makes sense.
It can also be quite dependent on the individual researcher's skills, their ability to interpret, to build rapport. Some see that as a potential limitation, introducing subjectivity.
The researcher is the instrument, in a way.
In a sense, yes. And just being there, participating, can subtly change the situation you're studying, though stepping back also changes things, just differently.
Right, there's no perfect invisibility.
No.
So we've really dug into these two distinct worlds, haven't we? Qualitative, quantitative, seen how they start from different ideas about reality, use different tools, aim for different kinds of answers.
Yeah, they really are different paradigms, different ways of approaching knowledge.
But the really profound point from our source material, I think, is that they shouldn't necessarily be seen as enemies.
Absolutely not. The insight is that they should ideally complement each other. Using both can give you the best overall understanding.
So there's no single best way.
Nope. It always comes back to your specific question. What do you need to know? What kind of answer are you looking for? What do you want to do with the knowledge? Sometimes you need that deep dive, the why. Sometimes you need the big picture, the numbers.
And often, maybe you need both.
Very often, yes.
Yep.
Starting qualitatively to explore and then quantitatively to test, for example. Or using quantitative data to see a pattern and then qualitative to understand why it's happening.
That makes perfect sense. So for everyone listening, the next time you come across some research or even just a claim about people or society, maybe ask yourself, is this trying to give me that deep, specific understanding of an experience? Or is it trying to predict a general trend? What kind of knowledge is it aiming for?
Right. And knowing the difference helps you evaluate it better.
And maybe think, what questions does this raise for you? What could combining both approaches tell us about something you're curious about that maybe one method alone just couldn't capture?